Oh, great. You defeated Arch-Tempered Arkveld, so you don't need to kill any more Arkvelds, right? Well, actually... Oh no, what is it now? I sort of want to fancy a bracelet. Ladies, gentlemen, and monsters of all ages, with the final update arriving for Monster Hunter Wilds, one of the big ticket items to talk about is the 10-star quests, which are the new highest star rating quests in the game, and it's essentially just all of the Arch-Tempered monsters. But today we are specifically going to focus on the rewards from these quests, talk about what they are, what they do, how good they are, and if these quests are worth farming as opposed to other methods of getting the same things. And the short answer is yes, 10-star quests are super high value to farm. The long answer is the rest of this video, so I can tell you how, why, and how much better it really is. That said, the main rewards from these quests are a few things. First, gamma tickets for the Arch-Tempered monsters, if you need their equipment still. Not a big deal otherwise, but worth noting the gamma tickets have decent value at the smelting foundry, progressively scaling up from the Raidau gamma tickets being worth 700 to Arkveld gamma tickets being worth 1200, which is the same as a full Arkveld gem is worth. Beyond that, one of the reward possibilities from this is Artian parts, not Gogma Artian parts, but regular base Artian parts, and you can get a fair few of them from these quests, but they seem to always be the highest rarity of Artian parts at the very least. Outside of that, there's also heavy armor spheres, which are the highest tier of armor spheres, so you can upgrade your armor more, and then the big ticket items, one of which is literally a big ticket, being the battle tempered emblems. These are a multi-use big point value ticket. They are worth 1,500 smelting points each if you're trying to smelt ore or armor spheres, so essentially equivalent to a gem in smelting value, more value than the Arkveld gem specifically, but you can also use them at the Elder Melder in Suja Village to exchange for Artian parts, including the new function at the Elder Melder that lets you trade for Gogma Artian parts specifically now, and every battle tempered emblem is worth exactly 3 Gogma Artian parts worth of points here, so 1 or 2 set bonus rerolls for each emblem that you spend, depending on which parts you get of course and which stuff you have in your weapon, but that's quite simply the best way of getting Gogma Artian parts outside of Gogmazios himself, who is of course the one that is built to be farmed with the intention of that being the best way that you can get those parts. So 10-star quests are not a more efficient farm for Gogma Artian than Gogmazios himself, but it is a secondary way that you can choose to get Gogma Artian parts from something that is high value for farming other things as well. And to add on to that, battle tempered emblems are also worth a lot of points for the Gogma reinforcing system. Specifically, they are worth 3,000 points each, which is exactly equal to a Gogmazios gem or 10 Oracle site, which is a pretty hefty amount of value for just one ticket in that system as well. These emblems are great, and it's mostly the fact that they are multi-purpose and can be turned into multiple different important things that you would otherwise be farming for, and that's what makes them as relevant as they are. So it's fantastic to just stack them up while you're doing 10-star quests, and then you can choose what specifically to spend them on after the fact. That said, the big main draw for 10-star quests are the Timeworn Charms. These are an extension of the RNG talisman system that was added a while back. Before the update, talismans would only come from the glowing stone item, and for reference, those turned into rarity 7 talismans 11% of the time when being appraised, and they turned into rarity 8 talismans only 3% of the time. This means on average you would only get 3 rarity 8 charms after you appraise 100 talismans, which is not a great rate for those by any means, and that's why the chances of getting a god roll talisman have always been considered very low, and why we've always said that you should not feel bad if you do not have one. That said, now we have the Timeworn Charm, which is an upgraded version of an appraisal stone. They also give RNG talismans upon appraisal, except that these have totally different drop rates. To my knowledge, there hasn't been a full data mine on these quite yet, but early estimates of the drop rates from getting loads of these from various players, it seems to be around 1 in 3 chance of getting a rarity 8 charm when appraising one of these stones, which would be 33%, and I've never seen it create a rarity 6 or 5 charm, which would place the chances of a rarity 7 at around 67%. The vast majority of charm rolls that people actually want, the things that people consider to be god rolls, the ones that are used in fully min-maxed builds, those are rarity 8, with a few of them being rarity 7, but that means outside of extremely rare occurrences where you might want a rarity 6 for some reason, every desirable talisman outside of that is dropped from these Timeworn Charms, and they cannot drop the rarity 5 or 6 ones, so a whole load of talismans that people didn't care about are not in the pool here. That said, now let's get into some numbers to explain exactly how much better these are, assuming that our drop rate rate estimations are somewhat accurate. If the old charms were a 3% drop rate of rarity 8 and the new ones are 33%, that means one Timeworn Charm is essentially worth 11 glowing stones, which are the old appraisal item, provided that the charm that you're trying to get is rarity 8 at least. For the sake of both easy math and because 33% is only a loose estimate, let's just call it 30% chance instead of 30 to make it a nice clean round 10 times the value of the old option. That means if a 9-star tempered quest took you an identical amount of time to a 10-star quest, you would need to get 10 times the amount of talismans for it to be worth more. For this to hold proper weight though, we do need some benchmarks for quest completions. The best 9-star investigation for charm farming before this was either Legiacris with a bonus monster or Seregios with a bonus monster, as while there are multiple monsters that offer the maximum amount of charms per quest, including Arkveld and gore magala, those two have much lower health bars. Legiacris I'd say is only comparable if you skip his underwater phase or if your quest for him is on the Wounded Hollow. Otherwise I'd say that Raidao and Seregios on the Windward Plains is the peak investigation farm combo for maximizing speed to reward ratio. Doing a hunt like this in a meta build, though worth mentioning I'm not the greatest player in the world of course, and I do have some defense built into here so I don't just die, it took me just under 22 minutes to finish the quest. For the sake of argument, let's say a build that's more optimized to these specific monsters and with a better player behind it could even bring that down to like 15 minutes, which is much quicker of a guess. That would mean a maximum of 20 glowing stone appraisal charms, as that is the most you can get from a double monster 9-star investigation in 15 minutes. Now let's talk about Arch-Tempered Arkveld, and I'll explain why specifically him in a moment, but my best hunt against him has been just under 23 minutes. Obviously you could speed that up a bit with a more targeted build and a better player using it too, but let's just call it 22 minutes, so I'm being extremely generous to the 9-star quests here to try and show you just how much better the 10-star quests are, because they will still blow them out of the water even with me sort of skewing the numbers towards the 9 stars being better. On rare occasion I have heard of people getting 0 charms from this quest, which is super unlucky, but the highest that I've seen someone show themselves getting is 10 Timeworn Charms in one quest. That would put the average at around 5. If we think the estimated drop chance numbers from these from earlier are correct, that would mean this is the equivalent of 50 glowing stones on average, so let's say that you can get 20 glowing stones in 15 minutes from a double monster 9-star investigation, which I should add would also require you to get that perfect investigation to drop to begin with, because they don't have infinite charges and you have to actually make them happen. Or you can just do Arch-Tempered Arkveld, get an average of 5 Timeworn Charms, the equivalent of 50 glowing stones in 22 minutes. If we convert the Timeworn Charms to the same value as glowing stones by just saying one of them is equal to 10 glowing stones, that means the 9-star tempered investigation with perfect circumstances is around 1.3 glowing stones per minute. Average charm reward from the Arch-Tempered Arkveld quest done in 22 minutes is the equivalent of 2.3 glowing stones per minute, which means at those numbers it's around 1.8 times the value of the perfect 9-star investigation. Obviously these numbers aren't perfect, there is room for error, but if anything I have pushed them to lean more towards trying to make the 9-star quest look impressive, and the results still show that 9-star is just not the way to go anymore at all for charm farming, especially when you consider that 10-star quests are just pick up and go. No farming for the specific investigation in order to get it started. That's the final step then is which 10-star quest is the most efficient, and this is a pretty easy answer. If you can consistently defeat Arch-Tempered Arkveld without failing the quest, he is the most efficient option. All of the other 10-star Arch-Tempered solo quests seem to give around half of his rewards more or less, which means that you would have to kill them twice as fast as Arkveld to make them worth more charms per minute. Again, we are still pretty early, so it may not be quite that exact, it might not literally be half, but the most that I have seen from a 10-star that wasn't Arkveld was 5 charms dropping in a quest, which is exactly half of the maximum that I've seen from Arkveld himself. On top of that, Arkveld Gamma tickets are the highest value of any Gamma ticket for smelting points, so that's just an extra bonus on top for choosing to farm him too. In other words, if the only thing you care about is charm farming efficiency, we're sort of back to where we were multiple title updates ago, where the best farm target by a fairly large amount is Arkveld, only now it's specifically 10-star Arch-Tempered Arkveld instead of it just being regular Tempered Arkveld back in the day. Unless, again, you are capable of killing any of the other 10 stars at double the speed, and some people may find that doable for duna or new udra specifically, but as far as I'm concerned, I'm just telling you the relative value of these things. It's up to you to interpret that data based on your own hunt times and your own experiences. To sort of round this all up neatly then, 10-star quests are an extremely efficient way to farm smelting points, the second best way to get Gogma Artian parts through battle-tempered emblems, and the best way to get reinforcement points for the Artian system now as well. Beyond that, they are by far the best source of rarity 7 and rarity 8 talismans specifically, and I do feel the need to mention that while this raises your chances of getting a god roll talisman dramatically, dramatically compared to before, it is still a very low chance that any individual person will get one. So while they are much more farmable than they were before, if you put enough time in, you probably will get one now. It is still a mountainous task to approach, and I'd recommend still treating it like an incredible moment if you do get a god roll talisman, rather than just being irritated every time that you roll a talisman and it has bad skills, because you're just much more likely to have that happen than having a full god roll. That just about does it for today, then, everyone. A deep dive on the new 10-star quests and specifically the rewards for doing them, whether they're worth farming, and which one specifically is the most farmable. I hope you've all enjoyed this, and I hope it helps you out with your goals of gaining power in the final stage of the endgame for Monster Hunter Wilds before the eventual Master Rank expansion. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet. Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.